Jim, it's good to see you again.
Great to see you. Thank you
Yeah,
for having me.
absolutely. You asked me what I'm doing lately, and in large part, what I'm doing these days was inspired by you many years ago.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's good. It's all good. When I was working at the other office, and I saw Cleerly for the first time, and really, and I come from a traditional cardiology background, and I was always waiting for CCTA to make it to a place where it was utilizable on a larger scale. And I didn't realize what you were doing on the back end and all the work you had put in to make this happen. The second I saw Cleerly, it absolutely changed my perspective in preventative cardiology. All of a sudden, I said, it's finally here, the technology we need to visualize what's going on, to identify and target care. So thank you for that. That changed the trajectory of my career, and it really empowered me to understand that there is a lot more that can be done to educate the population and a lot more impacts that we can make.
Yeah, I agree, and thank you very much for all those kind words.
Yeah. So Cleerly is gone through a lot of growth over the past. I don't know. First time I saw it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, since 5 years ago, that was 2021, we were pretty small.
Yeah.
We've grown over the years, like somewhere around 300,
Yeah.
350 employees at this point in time. And I mean, one of the most exciting things for us is that, we think that we've fully created the comprehensive care management platform that we always set out to do. And just for those who don't know what we were trying to do, we wanted to really personalize medicine.
Yeah.
We wanted to be on a bed of clinical evidence that was evidence-based, but really try to personalize medicine in a way that we could better evaluate, educate, treat, and track heart disease.
It's a fantastic tool, and it's constantly evolving. And I mean, you were one of the first adopters to use. I mean, have the advances in AI technology changed the way Cleerly is utilizing processing?
It has. I was in academics, as you know, and I was at Cornell Medical College and New York Presbyterian for many years. In 2010, I think we started a computational biology arm. We had initially focused on some things, and then we saw this AI coming about, so we shifted everybody to AI. In 2010, it didn't work that well.
Yeah.
But 2016 or 15, you saw these deep learning algorithms come out, and it really started to work. So we wanted to determine whether or not that could help us scale the ability for us to evaluate everybody's heart in a mass way,
Yeah.
as opposed to doing it very manually. When we were doing it manually and really trying to get the comprehensive insights of heart disease, it was taking us 8-10 hours to do. And we were stubborn researchers. We were going to do it no matter what.
Yeah.
But to actually do it for patients in daily clinical care would have been impossible. So we started Cleerly in 2017, really with that goal to create a personalized care management platform, but utilize end-to-end AI across the way, and that worked. And then to your point, it's gotten a lot better over the course of the last, few years or so. And so we have just put in another FDA submission, knock on wood, that tries to update a lot of the algorithms that we're using.
Cleerly was the first in market that actually looked at what was going on in the vessel wall,
Yeah.
visualizing it, and then quantifying it specifically. The only other competitor was looking at flow,
Yes.
and now they've tried to adopt something similar. Cleerly has also brought in some flow technology.
Yeah, I can contrast those. The company that you're referring to uses a technology called computational fluid dynamics.
Yeah.
It was great in 2008. AI has probably superseded that at this point in time. They're offering a Plaque tool as well. That's great. I think that what that means is we're raising awareness.
Yeah.
And from the flow standpoint, the flow for the listeners, flow is for symptoms,
Yeah.
right? If you have chest pain or shortness of breath, an assessment of flow may be useful. I think that what people don't realize is that the actual heart disease, the plaque that builds up in the walls of the arteries, influences the flow. If you look mathematically at the contribution of plaque plus the narrowing in an artery,
Yeah.
and how much does each contribute to ultimately a reduction in blood flow to the heart muscle, it's about half-half. And so if you only have a technology that looks at the inside of the artery rather than the wall of the artery, you'll miss half of the information.
Yeah.
So when we developed our quote-unquote flow approach, like it was to incorporate plaque and atherosclerosis, because we realized that that really helped us determine more accurately whether or not somebody's symptoms were according to coming from their heart.
Yeah. And so now Cleerly has been approved by the FDA has it been approved for screening or is
It has not.
No, it's
yeah,
not.
but,
Okay.
but it's a good question. Like as of January 1 of this year, the Centers for Medicare Services has now announced a national reimbursement and coverage
That's right.
for plaque. And fortunately, and for all of the patients, the United Healthcare, Humana, Aetna, Cigna has also followed suit. These, again, are for symptomatic patients with suspected heart disease, so shortness of breath or chest pain. For the screening, I think we need to develop the evidence in order to get the coverage and reimbursement. We need to develop the evidence in order to change guideline recommendations. And for that, we are committed to that. We enrolled almost 8,000 patients in a large-scale randomized control trial across about 125 sites in the United States to prove that looking at actual heart disease is better than looking at risk factors of heart disease, such as blood pressure, cholesterol. And we're not saying don't look at those things. We're just saying that, if your question is, hey, does this person have heart disease? Look for heart disease. And so I think maybe there's an obviousness to that, but we're not doing it, so it needs to be proven.
Yeah. That's what you've been preaching for as long as I've been listening to you lecture. It's don't look at the surrogates. We can look at the disease itself now. So why don't we?
Exactly.
Yeah. You mentioned the name of the trial. What's the name of this trial?
It's called Transform. Yeah. And so it really is a constellation of a bunch of geniuses coming together to work together as a team. But it's led by Deepak Bhatt. He's at Mount Sinai. He's the head of the Cardiovascular Institute there. And then co-led by David Marin, who's at Stanford University, alongside our Chief Medical Officer and Scientific Officer, Udo Hoffman.
Yeah. All of your work is paying off. The outreach, the education, the teaching about looking at plaque itself, because I constantly get requests for consults for patients to interpret their Cleerly scan, to understand what it means, what to do with it. So it's working. And do you see that continuing? Do you feel like you've reached a plateau, or is this still an uphill battle for you?
No, I think we're less than 1% towards our goal.
Yeah.
But fortunately for us, in the last 5 years, the growth and the awareness has been upwards and to the right. And so it does seem like there's a general awareness. And, somebody told me one time that apparently 80% of what I say you will misinterpret. And I looked it up, and it's right. So what people have said is you just have to repeat the message over and over and over again, and then you have to prove that message actually positively impacts human health.
That's right. And that's a challenge when you're looking at prevention, or upstream interventions, because the event rates are harder to detect downstream. Are you looking at plaque regression or cubic millimeters of plaque and types of plaque?
Yeah, we definitely have studies that are looking at sort of tracking plaque over time. And we believe that that is the most effective way to practice personalized medicine in an evidence-based fashion. For the trial, in order for us to try to influence positively the guideline recommendations, they're going to want hard events, which is why we had to invest to a 10,000 patient randomized control trial. Trust me, I'm reminded by our investors and our board how much we're investing into this trial, but we believe that it addresses the number one public health epidemic in this world. It is truly an epidemic that needs to be curtailed, and that the only way that you're going to influence guidelines is really to change the guidelines.
So is most of the outreach stateside, or are you doing a lot of education internationally too? Because we know heart disease has been and it continues to be the number one cause of death in the United States. definitely globally, but the technology is not as available globally.
It's not as available globally. Right now, we're pretty busy here in the U.S. We did come back from the Middle East a few weeks ago where we had met with a number of healthcare leaders there. So we're interested in that. I think their epidemic is of higher proportion there, where the average age of heart attack is about 10 years earlier than the U.S. We collaborate with several folks in many different countries in Europe, as well as Japan and Korea. So, we're starting, but it's going to take a while.
What about in the Asian subcontinent? Any response there? I mean, I say this because I have family there, and the genetics for Asians predisposes us to insulin resistance, heart disease, and we die young, early, of heart disease earlier.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we have like a multi-center global registry that we call Confirm2. We've enrolled about 13,000 patients with 5-year outcomes to better understand heart disease across races and ethnicities. So we represent East Asia, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, Eastern and Western Europe, North and South America, and Central America. So it's a very diverse population, and it's more than half of the people enrolled are women, which tend to be neglected in cardiology trials, as you well know.
Yeah.
And so, we're just trying to best understand disease. We presented a study last year that showed that, pound for pound, plaque for plaque, women can have much less plaque and be at the equivalent risk of a man who's got more plaque. So we have to recalibrate our understanding, and that goes to that whole personalized medicine where treat the individual, don't treat a population, but really go after the N of 1 medicine.
Yeah. So I've seen you present at these types of conferences, at personalized medicine conferences, maybe some that are not quite as conventional, and it's very well received. We love learning about this technology and how to implement it. Is it getting as well received in conventional cardiology conferences and conventional circles?
Yeah, I mean, I love coming to CALM. As you know, the vast majority of the conferences that we go to are sort of the more traditional, sort of standard clinical care conferences. So American College of Cardiology, American Heart Association, this one called Transcatheter Cardiovascular Therapeutics, which is called TCT. We go to the radiology conferences and so on. So we're just trying to disseminate the message as widely as possible.
And then is it making its way into the hospital arena?
It is, yeah. I mean, a lot of that was based on coverage and reimbursement from traditional healthcare payers. And because of that, we're in scores of hospitals at this point in time. And, we just came back from our national sales meeting, and I think there's a lot of enthusiasm that you should see that more than double this year.
Very nice. Is there anything that Cleerly is working on to add to the offerings, add to the report, or is this?
There's a lot. Yeah, you're going to see a bunch of stuff coming out from us like this summer. We just submitted a product to the FDA 2 weeks ago. We've got a bunch of partnerships that we'll announce over the course of the next 12 months, and then, heart disease is horrible, but it's not the only atherosclerotic disease. So I'll just leave you with, we're not going to stop with just one vascular bet.
Very good. There is I know of another competitor that's international that's doing they're looking at vascular biology from a inflammatory standpoint. Is that something that Cleerly thinks about adding on as their offerings as well?
We may. I mean, we've looked at that technology. We've also done our own research internally. Right now, for me, it's always important to have an output that's actionable. Like if I'm just measuring something to measure something and I don't know how to treat it, that's frustrating. Right now, there's not a lot of evidence to support treating, if this is true, inflammation within the fat around the heart arteries, which is what that technology claims to do. I don't have a good treatment for that. So it's just hard to understand why I would order something that I cannot treat.
One of the existing challenges and historical challenges for imaging the heart and the arteries of the heart is the motion. So if you're expanding to other vascular beds that are still, can we use old CTTAs to be processed to look at vascular tissue in those old beds?
Yeah, absolutely. We can do that even for the heart. So lots of patients come in and say, but I had a study 3 years ago. And we say, we have a product called Cleerly Compare that is FDA cleared. And what it does is it quantitatively tracks plaque tracks disease over time. And then, as you and I had talked about, there's many phenotypes of plaque, some very good for you, some very bad for you. What we wanted to do was make sure the medical therapies were working in such a way that we were seeing the actual disease stabilize. And so that has been great. And I think that compare thing, in my mind, it seems the obvious way to track disease. If you want to track actual disease, track actual disease, don't track surrogates of disease.
The next vascular condition that people fear the most is a stroke.
I think so.
And so is Cleerly going to be potentially looking at vascular tissue in the brain circulation? Because that would answer a big question in a lot of these stroke cases. Is there a plaque that's vulnerable? Is this an issue of
I think so. I mean, that's definitely on our roadmap. I think the other one that, I think is lesser known, but, if you do imaging of the intracranial arteries, you see garden variety atherosclerosis and plaque building up in the 40s and 50s. And that has been strongly correlated to future dementia. And that is an epidemic that is a horrible way to live life or to die from. And so there's a number of different vascular beds that we can tackle. Right now we're pretty busy with this coronary artery disease, which has been my research focus for the last 21 years, but those things are definitely on the roadmap.
Yeah. Are you still involved with the R&D part of Cleerly, and what's most exciting for you in that aspect right now?
Yeah, I think I am. I sort of do whatever can be helpful to the company. So whether that's in the commercial realm or the R&D realm and market access and really working with the payers, supplying the evidence and so on. The most exciting thing, I think, is just that we have an amazing team. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that more than 90% of our employees are truly mission driven.
That's fantastic.
We believe that the therapies are out there. I mean, kudos to all of the pharmaceutical companies who made these blockbuster medications that can really eradicate atherosclerotic disease. We just need to find them, the people to treat. And so just feel blessed to be surrounded by a team of just world-class individuals. So that, I think, is the thing that excites me the most.
Yeah. Do you have a training program or some sort of online course that clinicians can use to familiarize themselves better with how to interpret Cleerly?
Yeah, so we instituted that last year. Our head of medical affairs holds a hands-on course. And we've held that several times. I think we have 40, 50 computers, and we ship them around, and they're preloaded with all these patient cases, and we get academic and clinical leaders to come in, go through the cases hands-on. The clinicians just talk amongst themselves to best practice and so on. Those have been really rewarding because it's just really nice to see how people change. We have published a study showing that when somebody looks at a CT scan and then adds Cleerly on top of that, the clinical management of patients changes about 60% of the time.
That's fantastic.
And so it's uncanny to watch these people say, oh, this is what I do with the patient. Then they review the exam and they say, oh no, actually I changed my mind. I think I would do something different. So that's been quite rewarding.
How's it feel so far in the growth of the company?
Yeah, it feels great. I mean, we just came off of a meeting with almost 100 people from our company in person. That's been great. I think that historically, we're definitely upwards and to the right in terms of growth and awareness, which is also wonderful. I think we're just starting, so the race is long. So, what we say is we understand our race. Just keep running our race, mission driven, and we don't need to look around. We don't need to look behind us. We just need to keep our eye on the prize, which is ultimately, if we do what we do, I hope that we can create what's called a silent revolution. What do I mean by that? You'll just stop hearing about heart attacks as much. You won't hear, oh, my buddy just died of a heart attack, or it'll just be sort of silent, and people will start living longer, and that would be great. So that is our mission, and I think that we're pretty unified in that mission.
Well, I support that mission 100%. You've inspired me to take that on too, and I'm rooting for you. I'll be using Cleerly from now on. I have been.
Thank you. Thanks,
Jim.
And thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely.